Big Bob Senkewicz with us tonight. Welcome to another jam-packed action edition of David Lee Madison's The End of the Night. And first off, I want to wish all you mothers out there a very happy Mother's Day. I hope that you enjoyed your day. I hope you enjoyed your day with your loved ones and that you got all the love and kindness that good moms out there deserve. How are you, Mr. Ridgely?
I am excellent. Excited about tonight's show. I learned a little while ago that our guest was in one of Ernie O'Donnell's shorts, and these guys are all chums. That's awesome.
No, honestly, there's a lot of men that are in Ernie O'Donnell's shorts. Trust me. With that being said, there is something I have to touch base first here on the show. Somebody is missing. And if anybody finds this missing person right here, Grunkle Scott Schiaffo, who's now missed, I think, 3 or 4 shows in a row, please return him home to the end of the night, because we miss you, Grunkle Scott. And, it's not the same without Grunkle Scott Schiaffo.
I don't know. Pre-show, I was thinking that, Dave, you're like the ultimate suspect on why he may be missing.
I know.
You live the closest to him.
So, Mr. Ridgely, how was your Mother's Day? What did you do for your beautiful wife?
Okay, so this is like an ongoing battle with my family and the women in my family. So, my wife isn't my mother. So it is my adult kids' responsibility to take care of my wife now for Mother's Day. But my daughter made her dinner, and it was absolutely delicious. Some kind of mushroom spinach raviolis with some homemade cream sauce. She really outdid herself in garlic bread, and it was a nice setup.
Kudos to your beautiful daughter for doing such a nice thing for your lovely wife. She's quite an artist too, your daughter. You're a very lucky dad. Drew Godaris, just a great actor, saying Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to you, Drew. I don't know why we're wishing each other Happy Mother's Day, but I guess we all had mothers at one point, so.
And for all the fathers who are playing mothers as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of fathers out there who are real mothers, I'll give you that. I wanted to take a minute because I have a dear friend who's an artist who does comic book covers. And his name is Gus Mauk, and he is by far one of the best artists I have ever seen. Hello, Jamie and Walter. Happy Mother's Day to you both. He doesn't get enough love for just how crazy talented he is. But, Joe, I want to share... I have a couple pictures. He did the cover and the movie poster for my film Middle Village. But some of his work is really outstanding, and and this is like pencil work he does. This is one he did for me. Can you see that?
Oh, Loki? Yeah. That's pencil work?
Yes, that's pencil work done by Gus Mauk. That's Loki. It's almost like photorealistic how good he is.
It really is.
At how good. He did a Loki for me because my daughter's an enormous fan of Loki, and Gus did this Loki. And as everybody out there knows, I grew up loving the original Universal horror movies. And this Karloff's Frankenstein is literally like the stuff of legend. I mean, look, can you imagine being that ridiculously talented? And that's his Karloff's Frankenstein. But then just because he's a dear friend of mine. And I'm super thrilled he sent me this. He actually did a Mr. Hush.
Mr. Hush.
Isn't that pretty epic?
That's amazing.
So I am super, super honored. And of course, this was the movie poster he did for me for my film, Middle Village. And I just want to make sure that Gus Malk, if you're doing a film, or if you're doing a comic book, or if you're doing anything that you need unbelievably talented artist for, give Gus a call. He's on Facebook. Gus MAU. Excuse me, too much prime rib for Mother's Day. Gus MAUK on Facebook, and he is just an like unbelievable artist. I mean, I think his Loki is almost scary good. The way he captured
it definitely is.
I mean, the way he captured that character is just unbelievable.
Got Libby saying hi.
Hi, Libby. I hope you are well.
Ken,
how are you, my friend? Well, tonight we're going to have one of those occasions that I have a dear friend coming on. And Bob is an actor, a writer, a director, a casting director. And he's worked on some pretty amazing things. He was a voice of in the Pokemon movie. And he's got a new film coming out we're going to talk about. He's done, of course, he worked on The Seventh Day with Ernie O'Donnell. He's worked with the great Brian O'Halloran on his new film. And believe it or not, on his new film, our very own Grunkle Scott, from what I understand, did the music. So he's going to be joining us for in just a few minutes. Bob and I go way back. We're sad Met and Jet fans. we went out to see Met and Jet games. He's also a big Huey Lewis fan. So he came out.
So did the Jets get a new quarterback yet?
I don't know. Some guy who doesn't believe in 9/11. I tapped out on that. I'm literally not a Jet fan anymore. I really dislike that guy. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people like him, but and then of course the Knicks lost on me, which was really sad news. But there's always the Mets, who suck just like they always do. So let's not talk about sports, because it's just going to put me into a deep depression. I know Bob now for, I think, over a decade. And we have gone to many a Met game. I think we went to a Jet game, and he hung out backstage with Huey Lewis and I. He's just a great guy. He's a great. I've seen him on a show, on a play. Him and Brian did A Few Good Men. And I think Bob played the, if I'm not mistaken, the Nicholson part. I may be mistaken, because I never saw the Tom Cruise Few Good Men. I saw Brian and Bob's A Few Good Men.
Really? You've never seen the Tom Cruise?
No, I can't stand that guy.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, God. Like, that dude is like the creepiest dude ever. I don't know how he got to be one of the biggest movie stars of all time.
Smallest.
One of the smallest, yeah. I mean, you think once he jumped up on Oprah's furniture and started doing the funky chicken, that would have been like when people tapped out. But for some reason, I mean, like, really, a Top Gun 2 is like the biggest movie of 2022.
Dave, I'm sorry, and I had this argument with JW, the movie guy who knows everything about movies. Top Gun Part 2, it was a Star Wars film.
Really? I never seen it.
Well, no, basically they're trying to kill the Death Star in this movie. And so he takes the young student under him, and they do that. And
nice.
It's a Star Wars flick, in my opinion.
And Val Kilmer could play Yoda now, so it all works out wonderful.
Jesus.
I'm going to burn in hell.
You are.
I look at it this way. If Seth MacFarlane is not going to burn in hell for his jokes on Family Guy, nothing I do on this show is going to be even remotely as bad. Anything cooking with the heart of the Mystic folks? Are they up on selling online yet, or are they still selling local?
they're still kicking ass in retail right now, and they're trying to keep up with the demand on that alone, which is really awesome. So I
You know
don't.
what? My wife and daughter are so excited when there was the possibility of them doing like stones.
Oh,
I
they're
think
still doing them, and they're gonna get online eventually, but they got to fulfill past orders right now for the retail spot, which I'm very excited for them.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, without any further ado, let's bring our distinguished guest up. Bob is a wonderful actor, writer, producer. He just pretty much does everything. He's just an overall stand-up guy, a dear friend of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Senkewicz. Hey, Bob, how the hell are you?
Good evening. Yeah, I don't know if I can live up to that introduction, but I'm here anyway.
You are one of the rare people who can actually live up to that introduction. So please.
You were right. I did play the Nicholson part in The Few Good Men, the one that you saw.
Oh yes. Hi, Wendy. Happy Mother's Day to the beautiful and talented Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
That show, Bob, was you guys did an absolutely phenomenal job. I mean, as far as stage performances go, your stage performance made me go and want to seek the film. That's how good it was.
Well, thank you. I was very happy to do it. I had stopped doing a lot of theater because I have a little bit of a throat issue, so doing live stuff has become a little bit of an issue for me. But the gentleman who was directing it is a dear friend, and Brian O'Halloran, who you mentioned, was going to be in it, and a couple of other good friends who are also professional actors were going to do it. And I was like, well, how can I pass up trying to one-up Jack Nicholson? And decided, okay, we're going to give it a shot and see what happens. And it was a phenomenal group of great actors and younger kids, because it was done at a high school where one of the folks who was in our cast was a teacher at that school, and she was trying to establish a summer program, and she was also an equity actress, and she kind of put the whole thing together, and it kind of snowballed into something very, very nice.
No, all kidding aside, it was a fantastic production with unbelievable performances, and you guys should be very proud of how that turned out.
We were.
I know you a long time now. We've chatted in ballparks, in each other's homes, on riverbeds, all over the. I never knew you had anything to do with Pokemon movies, dude. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with doing the Pokemon voiceover stuff.
Let me make a long story short on that.
No, make it long.
Make it long. Okay. Back in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, I was doing summer theater at Monmouth University, and I met a gentleman there by the name of Bill Timoney, who you probably know. Mm-hmm. And he and I struck up a beautiful friendship, which runs to this day. Matter of fact, Bill is in the film that I'm here to talk about as well. And he had said to me, you should be doing voiceovers. And I, much to my, I had no idea. Bill's huge in the voiceover world. If you ever IMDb Bill's resume, you're going to see pages and pages and pages of stuff that he has done cartoon animation voices for and ADR and films for. He is quite the voiceover guy. And lucky for me, he was in my corner, introduced me to the folks that were doing the recording locally in the United States for Pokemon. They tried me out. They liked what I was doing, and I wound up doing a couple of character of the days, and I was in a couple of the movies, and that it was a nice little way of weaving my way in, and since then that relationship has blossomed into a number of voices for animation, for cartoons that are on Netflix and Amazon and Cartoon Network, streaming, and all sorts of other stuff all over the place. So it was quite the nice, serendipitous moment for me. Let's put it that way.
Wendy, who is part of our network, actually does voiceover as well. And so does Jamie, who's part of our network, who was just in a huge indie movie, Skinamarink. That was
nice.
released.
Congratulations, Jamie.
Nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
So, and we got J.W. Colwell. Good evening, friends, and welcome.
And
Thank you. Good evening to you too.
Wendy says she loves the voiceover industry.
It is one of the most interesting and fun places to work because you don't have to get dressed up to show up to work. And with the COVID era, a lot of the voiceover studios went virtual. So as long as you had equipment in your house, you could connect to them over the internet, record your stuff from home, and continue doing the work that you're doing before. Matter of fact, earlier today, I had gotten an audition for a film that was a voiceover to do, believe it or not, Vince McMahon's voice in a film.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And so my agent was like, well, can you do it? I was like, well, I've got the studio stuff here. That's not the problem. So it was just a matter of, putting it together and then shooting it off, it's a nice thing about the voiceover world.
Are you ready to hi, Mark, I hope you're well. Are you ready to let everybody who's watching tonight hear your Vince McMahon, or is that something that you need?
Well, it's my Vince McMahon voice, and here we go. It's that you kind of got to get that
used car salesman thing going on. Yeah.
There's the bravado, there's the over the top, there's the everything has got to be far more interesting and exciting than it is. While he gives the play-by-play, it's the stuff where he's giving the play-by-play on like what used to be the Saturday morning stuff or Saturday afternoon stuff. We'll see. It's an audition. You throw it out there, you see what happens.
Joe, he gave me goosebumps there because it reminded me of about a year and a half ago when our dear friend Daniel Roebuck came on, and he did Grandpa Munster for us before he even started shooting the new Munsters movie, and that was pretty awesome to see that before. And then I think he was the only good part of the Munsters movie, but what the hell do I know? P.T. Barnum fused with Joe Buck is what JW's got. Yeah, okay, that works.
Yeah, that kind of works. Yeah, okay.
So, best podcast ever. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I've never asked you this, and I'm surprised why I haven't, because I'm really interested. Who are some of the people who inspired you as a young man, Bob, to want to do stuff in front of the camera and show businessy stuff?
Wow. All right. I'm going to back you up for 2 seconds and say the first person who inspired me was actually Tom Seaver.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I was a huge Drop and Drive fan of Tom Seaver. Mm-hmm. So much so that I actually, even when I was in high school and college, I was a pitcher. Mm-hmm. Had a tryout for a single A team that played out of Newark, and they looked at me and they said, yeah, you don't throw hard enough, which I didn't. I was a junk baller even for a guy my age. So that ended quickly. Influences as far as MASH was always my biggest. It was a show that was the thing for me. Mm-hmm. And even to this day, I can sit here and quote lines from and almost tell you what episode it was in and what season it was in and what episode number within the season it was. That kind of stuff. I was a huge Alan Alda fan, and it's interesting because as I got older, I saw more of the problems with what Alan Alda did. And it made me like him more, and also say I can do. Think to myself, silly, I can do that. I can do better than that. And when I was younger, fortunately for me, I had a high school English teacher who was the theatrics professor, as a teacher as well. He was very encouraging, and he kind of gave me an appreciation for and a love for being on stage and doing things. And then it became not necessarily just one person, but just, I want to do that because you kind of started to get the high from being on stage and from doing stuff. To give you an idea, there was a play I did, I guess it was in 2002. We were doing, and matter of fact, this is when I first met Brian O'Halloran. We were doing the play Picasso at the Le Pan Agile. And I wanted to audition for the part of Einstein, which, unknowns to me, Brian was already set up to play.
Mhm.
And the gentleman who was directing it says to me, well, I'll let you audition for it. I was like, okay. And I auditioned for it. And when he calls me, he says, yeah, that part I can't give you. He says, but would you be interested in the role of Freddie? And if you're familiar with the play, Freddie's on stage for all but a page and a half of the entire show.
Mhm.
And I said to him, dude, I'm on stage the whole show. Why would I not want to do that? And it's here's the high of doing it. And so that's kind of the explanation of, so any one person, I was a TV nut. I mean, I was there watching, when Fonzie jumped the shark. I was a Mork and Mindy fan. I was
Were you a Sledgehammer fan by any chance?
not a huge fan, but I did like the show.
Mhm.
I remember watching it. I do like the show, although I'm a little more partial. I'm trying to remember the name of the show now. Never mind. It slipped my mind at the time. It was something I auditioned for the folks at Saturday Night Live, and I had them rolling in the floor, rolling on the aisle because it was a script from another show,
Mhm.
and I had them just going crazy. But because of conflicts, I couldn't do the episode when they were. I was interviewing extra. I was in the background, but they were like, "Hey, we'll bring you in." I was like, "Okay, great. This day, can't do it."
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
Was it
yeah.
Daddy Business that you missed it for?
No.
Okay.
No, it was a play I was already doing, and we were already set to we were running, and I was like, I can't do that.
Two things about what you just discussed. First off, Brian O'Halloran, as far as everybody knows him from the View Askew universe, like
Yes.
Clerks 1, 2, and 3, and Dogma, and all the films that he's done. Needless to say, he is a fantastic he's a stage actor, a fantastic stage actor,
Phenomenal stage
which
actor.
doesn't always translate from film actors. And same goes for you, Bob. You're an amazing stage actor. I have nothing but the utmost respect for you.
Thank you.
And you brought up Alan Alda earlier. And the one thing I remember most about MASH, and I don't know if you remember this, do you remember something of an episode where Alan Alda was either on a bus or a truck, and
Yes.
the baby was crying or
Yeah,
something?
well, that's actually the last episode of the show. That was the long
that
on
was the
then.
series,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
the series finale.
Yeah.
Can you refresh my memory of what exactly happened, because I don't really
Well,
remember.
The premise of the of that in that episode is they're on a bus and they've bugged out trying to evade capture and being found by the North Koreans.
Mhm.
And there's a family that's on the bus with them. Some of the folks that were traveling with them, some of the local indigenous personnel.
Right.
And during the episode, he is in sessions with Sidney Freeman, the psychiatrist,
Right.
played by the wonderful Alan Arbus.
Mhm.
And they're trying to get to where he realizes what had actually happened. And during the episode, in his mind, he had convinced himself that what was going on was there was a chicken there.
Right.
And the
right,
chicken was making all this noise, and he was trying to get the woman to stop the chicken from making all the noise,
right.
because he had blocked out in his mind that it was her baby.
Baby. Right.
And because they were going to be found because of the sound, they were trying to lean on her to try and keep her help her keep the baby quiet.
Right.
And as a result, the woman suffocates the
It's
baby, which sends Hawkeye into his, I caused some woman to kill her baby.
Right.
And that's the premise behind that whole.
Yeah, I remember. I never watched MASH in reruns, but I watched it when it was on the first time, and I remember that particular storyline. I guess because I was older, because it was one of the last episode. It was the last episode, and
Yes,
I
it
remember that being extraordinarily impactful. Now, Bob, a lot of filmmakers, indie filmmakers, watch this show.
Yeah.
And a lot of indie filmmakers who are extremely accomplished, and a lot who are up and coming. What would you tell an up and coming indie filmmaker? What piece of advice would you give them, Bob, to get their work done?
There's an old hello, Jamie. How are you? I broke what is probably the cardinal rule for filmmakers. I used my own money to make the movie. And maybe it's hard to get your own films made because who wants to do something if you've never done anything before? Nobody wants to throw money at you. It's a way to get started. But a lot of people will look at you and go, you're an idiot for putting your own money into a film. You should get somebody else to finance you, all that kind of stuff. That's the easy one to go with. The more important thing I would say is know your limitations. And originally, when I came to the idea of doing this film, I had written it. I had written the part for me. And that goes by the old saying that if you're not getting cast in the parts, write the part for yourself. So I did that. And I was originally going to direct it myself. And after some discussions with some folks, I came to realize what I don't know. And that was very eye-opening to me because I had very naive thoughts about how much I could do. And after working as closely as I did with the crew that I then eventually hired to produce and direct and put the whole thing together, I came to understand how much I really don't know. And learning where your limitations are is perhaps the most important thing to getting it done well. Because I could have done it. I could have done all this stuff, but I don't know how much it would have suffered for me having tried to extend myself in all those different directions. So that would be the biggest piece of advice I would give someone.
No, and I have the utmost respect for you because I have my 6th full-length motion picture coming out this October, and I have never ever brought myself to crowdfunding. It's not something I'm overly comfortable with. I feel like if I want to do something, why should it be the burden of other people to get it done? If that makes any kind of sense.
No, it does. It does. I argued in my own mind. Now realize this. We're talking about a 17.5-minute short. That's the piece that we're talking about as my first film. So it's not a huge budget, obviously. Right. But I couldn't see going to other people and saying, hey, I've got this project. Can you give me money for it? I'm not comfortable with that.
Right.
So when I originally started with thinking I was going to do it myself, I had a budget this size. And when I realized what I didn't know and I need to bring people in, I doubled it and said, okay, I got to put twice the amount of money in there to be able to pay these people to do this work for me and have it come out well. And I think it was money well spent.
It just blows my mind because there was recently a horror film that's grossed over $10 million in theaters that was crowdfunded. And when you realize that all that money, I mean, the people who donated got the perks, whatever it was, like a T-shirt or a copy of the DVD, but all the money that the film makes ultimately goes to the people who asked you for that money to begin with.
Right.
And it's just kind of a strange. I don't know. I know a lot of people are into it, and I'm really not. It's whatever floats your boat when you're making an indie film is fine with me. It's just really not like my bag.
Again, it's what are you comfortable with as a filmmaker, as a person who's as an artist who's doing this stuff. What is it that you can live with, and are you going to be comfortable doing that work using somebody else's money like that? And I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with it because, if I had 2 or 3 or 4 films out there that were doing things and making awards, earning awards at festivals and getting on streaming and being seen, I could see going that direction and saying, hey, look, folks, I've got a track record. Look, you can see what I've done.
Right.
Now I've got something as a resume for you to see for me as a filmmaker. I don't have that yet. So I wasn't comfortable going that direction. And, in part, this was also a little bit of an homage for my father, who passed away in 2020. And some of where the funds were from him. And so it was kind of a, let's follow this through to its hopefully not so bitter conclusion.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Now, you worked, we have Ernie O'Donnell, who's been on this show numerous times, is a dear friend of everybody on this screen right now. You did a wonderful short with him
Yeah.
Was it The Seventh Day?
Yes, it was.
I got to see that. It was a wonderful. Your work and it was fantastic. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with that and how that came together, because that was a really good piece of work.
Well, first of all, thank you. I was thrilled that Ernie offered me the work. Let's just start with that. As any actor, somebody calls and says, "I got a job for you." I'm a happy man. It's just the way it is. Ernie, I've known Ernie for a number of years as well, and I met Ernie through the backroom poker game that was associated with the comic book men game.
Book men, yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of got in there because I was a friend of Brian's, and then I kind of got to know everybody there. They got to know me. Ernie knew that I was an actor, and he had this script, and he calls me out of the blue one day and says, "Bob, I got this movie. I'd like you to be in it. I'm going to send. Are you interested?" My first answer, of course, is, "Oh, absolutely, I'm interested." And he says, "All right, I'm going to send you a script. There are 3 priests in this. Tell me which one you want to play." I was like, "Really? Okay." So I read through the script, and in the script, there's a priest, there's a Protestant minister, and a rabbi, although they are not identified as such. At least not in terms of, here, father this or pastor this or whatever. There's none of that. When I read through the script, the priest I thought was too obvious. The minister I thought had issues with depth of character, with the way it was written. And he served a very important purpose, but it wasn't a part I was interested to play. The rabbi had such an interesting angle on him in the story, and so I was like, this can be funny and serious and spooky and just crazy. So I called Ernie back and I said, "Ernie, if you give me my druthers, I would like this one." And he was like, "Oh, thank God, because that was the one I was hoping you were going to want." And from there, it was a done deal. And fortunately for me, it was 1 day's worth of shooting. I was disappointed in only one aspect for the entire production, and that was in talking with Ernie about the script, because he had asked me, he says, "What do you think? Give me ideas, give me suggestions." And I said, there's one spot I said, "Ernie, there's a hole right here in the script, and there's something missing." And he stops on a call and he's going, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" I was like, What? He goes, "We had dialogue there. We couldn't make it work. We couldn't come up with the right line to fit there." And I said to him, "Never fear. I will bring a line to the set. If you like it, we'll use it. If you don't like it, you've already removed it, so it's no big deal." Well, we got there. We started shooting the scene. We got to that line. When I dropped the line the first time, I think half the crew fell over because it was so dripping, which it didn't give away anything. But if you knew what the story was about, it told you everything. Mm-hmm. And they were like, "Oh my God!" People, the sound guy, who is now asking me to do some voiceover work for him, says to me, I dropped my stuff. I couldn't believe what you said. It was perfect." And then Ernie was like, "Yeah, we can't use it." I was like, "Why not?" He goes, "It'll give it away." He says, "It only gives away because you know about it." He goes, "Yeah, we can't use it." I'm like, all right, whatever. He says, "It's perfect. It's beautiful. It's the line we couldn't come up with. Can't use it." Like, all right, I was happy with what we did, because what was there on the page and what was written. I got some very nice feedback from a number of people, including Kevin Smith, who saw it and comment and talked to me about it, who absolutely loved it, which I was floored. So that's where that one came in and how I got into Ernie's film.
I saw that when he was originally doing it. He sent me a copy. Is that available anywhere right now? Do you know by chance?
It is on Tubi.
It is on Tubi.
It is on Tubi. The Seventh Day by Ernie O'Donnell. And I had to laugh because I had to go out and look for it. And my ugly mug, is the still shot when you pull it up. And it's a great still shot of me and Christian Kleber. I forget. I can remember if it's Kleber or Keeber. The other gentleman, his last name. And it's me in front with my face looking dead into the camera, and him behind me in this really weird, ominous look. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Score one for Bob.
There you go.
David, can we hit some comments real fast, please?
Absolutely.
All right, go for it.
A person knowing their own limitations is both humble and amazing introspective concept. Well, thank you, JW. I think he was talking about you, Bob, being smart enough to know what you had going
Financing your own movie. And
hello, have Cheetah will view.
I'm not quite sure who that is.
Is that an homage to Have Gun Will Travel?
I guess so.
Kind of sounds like it.
Can we call that person Paladin? But, you know.
You guys are doing a nice job.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. You know what, Joe? I'm always nervous because when they say you're doing a nice job, the next line is usually something horrifically mean-spirited, like, I hope you die with boils on your neck. But thank you, Half Cheetah. I hope everything... So, I know, Bob, that you have a new film that you wrote called Initiative.
Yep.
I'm super excited. I can't wait to see it.
Oh, thank you.
You work with your dear friend, Mr. O'Halloran. Tell us all about how Initiative came together and what we can expect from the movie.
Well, here's the crazy part about it is I am a lifelong Dungeons and Dragons player. And we all know how hot Dungeons and Dragons is at this time.
Absolutely.
I have a game that literally started playing, same game, March 10th, 1983.
Get the hell out of here. And it's still going?
I kid you not. 1983. The guy who we were just I was my first year in college. The other gentleman who started with me was 1 year ahead of me. We used to play, I was living at home with my parents at the time. We would play 3, 4, 5 times a week. He lived on the other side of town. It was just a one-on-one thing. If you go back, if you remember the old movie called Dragon Slayer,
yes,
came out in 1981. I was a dungeon master, ran the games. And he comes to me and says to me, I want to do a solo game, just you and me, based on that. I want to make a character that's a Dragon Slayer. I was like, great idea. Let me come up with some thoughts. Took me a few months to come up with the ideas for the game. And about 6 months later, I say to him, okay, I'm ready to go. And he goes, go for what? I was like, don't you remember that idea? He's like, oh, yeah. And since then, we have been playing regularly for the last more than 40 years. The game has grown. There are 5 people at the table now with me. At one point in time, I had 12 players at the table. It has grown and shrunk over time, depending on people and lives.
So Bob, do you remember the Tom Hanks movie, Monsters and Mazes?
Mazes and Monsters,
Mazes
and
and
it was
Monsters,
horrible. It was horrible. It completely fed into the whole, Dungeon Dragons are your satanic worshipers and you're summoning demons. I remember other parents, other adults in the neighborhood used to look at my mother and father who were buying me this stuff for Christmas and saying, don't you realize he's summoning? My mother would be like, he's sitting at the kitchen table with his friends. They're laughing more than anything else. I walk in, they're moving these little chess pieces around and writing up, where are the devils? Where's the demons? I don't get it. So do I remember it? Yes, I do. Not fondly. Just like Tom Hanks, not fondly. So the germ of the idea of the film comes from that, and how my players have tormented me as a dungeon master over time. And the trouble one has with players and trying to outthink your players and the boxes it puts you into. And as opposed to a lot of other things you'll see that are very stylized as far as Dungeons and Dragons goes, you don't see what I would call, and if somebody you saw them playing, what they would call real gameplay. Now, it's hard to make it very interesting, but it's not about the gameplay itself. It's about the friends at the table and the kind of things that they do, and then the weird things that come up. And the idea that I had was essentially the concept between what happens at the table and what your friends that are playing the game, the awkward positions of thought processes that they put you into as a dungeon master while you're trying to outwit them and they're trying to outwit you. And it's this process where one feeds off the other. And the idea of the film was, where does that go? How does it play out? And the way the script is written, there are two different worlds. There is a game table world where there's Dungeons and Dragons going on. And then there is a psych ward place where all of the roles are reversed. And you're never really sure which side is the actual reality and which side is in somebody's head. And my goal was to have it so when you get to the end of the script, at the end of the film, you're left there wondering, well, which one was real? And if I do that, I think I've achieved what I wanted to. And quite frankly, and fortunately for me, I can throw this one out there. One of the festivals that we've been accepted to, which is the International Horror Hotel in Ohio, we've actually won an award for suspense thriller.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah,
very cool.
So that's kind of where it comes from. It is Dungeons and Dragons, but it's not, because I don't have the rights to use that. Right. So I had to sanitize it and neuter the whole. There's no direct references to the game. There's nothing that's explicitly and only D&D. The books and the materials and whatnot, they were all whitewashed out, so you couldn't see that that's what it was.
And from what I understand, you have an enormous screening coming up.
Yes. This Saturday is our premiere. We're going to be premiering at the Philadelphia Independent Film Festival, Saturday afternoon at the theater on Canal Street. That's our first one. The second one is the International Horror Hotel, which happens in mid-June, and that's in Ohio. And later that same week, we're also now, our third festival we've been accepted to is the Newark Independent Film Festival in New Jersey. I will say this, and this is my bruised ego speaking. I'm not getting accepted to as many festivals as I would have hoped, but as I reflect on it, I think a lot of these folks don't understand where it's coming from, and they don't necessarily understand it. And because it's not told in a traditional beginning, middle, end, and it's not an artsy impressionist type of film, right, but it's one where it leaves you as a viewer to try and figure it out. They're not getting it. A lot of these folks are not getting it. So, I'm hoping I will get a wider acceptance to be shown. I'm out there for, I don't know, I think I've submitted to close to 30 different festivals. Hopefully I'll get a few more, biting at the lure.
Now, can people go this Saturday in Philadelphia and check it out? Is there like a
yes, they can.
Theater they could go get tickets?
Yes, they can. I don't know how large the theater is, and I believe we are one of 5 shorts that will be in the block that we're in. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm the first of the 5 in that block.
Awesome. John Wayne says the gameplay at the table and evolving friendships could be Clerks for a new generation.
I agree. And quite frankly, just to let my cat out of the bag, one of the things I had hoped to do with this was get it into the festivals, this piece into the festivals as a proof of concept, because I have a story arc for a streaming series version of this that would run at least in the first season, 8 to 10 episodes, with a nod into a second season. I had already devised that out. That was my hope. I don't know if I'm ever going to get that kind of attention, but you never get there if you don't dream big in the first place.
No, I can't wait to see it. To be honest with you, I will let you know when I see it what I think. But I'm sure I will love it because I think you're a super talented guy. I don't know if I ever told you this. I actually wrote a screenplay for you and Brian. It's a two-person film. We'll get it done one day. But it's
you did tell me about that a long time ago.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of My Dinner with Andre.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that it would be something that would allow two unbelievable performers like you and Brian to play off each other. So maybe one day we'll get that done. That would be pretty awesome.
Before you jump off of that, let me just say this, because you're bringing Brian up again. Brian's an old friend of mine as well. Mm-hmm. And when I wrote this script, I wrote the part for me for me. Mm-hmm. I wrote the part opposite me with Brian in mind, hoping that he would do it. Mm-hmm. And he was all over it. He was thrilled and happy to help me out. And I can't say enough, because I know Brian's a professional. Mm-hmm. I know he's my friend. I knew he was going to be good. I was floored at the amount of game he brought when we shot this piece. Mm-hmm. He exceeded any expectation that I had for him in that role. Mm-hmm. And I'd say the same thing about Bill Timoney, who was the last cast member I brought in. With a little couple of days worth of work, you can kind of they're going to show up. They're going to placate me, but they're going to be nice to me because I'm their friend. But they're not going to really, they're not going to bring it.
Do the work, right?
These guys just floored me. I mean, I knew they'd be good, but they knocked it out of the park, and they floored me with both their intensity and their creativity and their commitment to everything that was on there. And I couldn't have been happier with the way it all worked out in the end.
Well, you have to understand, Bob, is that probably your passion and your words on the paper is probably responsible for what they brought to the game. So don't sell yourself short. You probably, I know that they probably worked hard because of how awesome you are. One thing about Brian in Clerks III, I think he got overlooked award season because it was a Clerks movie? Or
I think so.
Okay.
I honestly, I told this to Brian too. It's hard when you see your friends on camera to not see your friends first, and not see and just see the character, right, because you know them so well.
Right.
And I told Brian, I said, "Hey, look, Brian, I loved what you did. I loved everything about that movie." He says, "But without giving anything away, the last monologue he gave in the Quick Stop, I didn't know who that guy was. Mm-hmm. To me, I lost all sense of, hey, that's my pal Brian. I was so caught up in the moment of everything he was doing there. I was just absolutely floored." Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple of things that were going against him for any larger accolades. Mm-hmm. One was it's a Clerks film.
Right.
And it's a comedy, and quite frankly, it's Jeff's movie. It's not Brian's movie. Mm. And I think the second half of it is, it's a Kevin Smith movie.
Mm. Well, you know what? I think they planned it to be Jeff's movie, but Brian.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But my point being is, when I bring up the idea that it's a Kevin Smith movie, and I'm not trying to put Kevin down.
Right.
I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. And so when you pair that with what's going on, it all pieced together that they're really not going to give it the kind of attention or recognition it truly deserves. And I hope you recognize me for the 3 seconds I was on film in Clerks 3.
Were you in the hospital scene?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm in a shot where when Brian shows up at Jeff's hospital room, There's a shot of Brian looking out the door.
Mhm.
I'm a patient walking down the hall behind him. That's my 3 or 4 seconds of Clerks fame.
Well, there you go.
I've got a couple of questions here, or questions and statements. Is your film being reviewed as of yet?
It has not been reviewed yet because it has not premiered anywhere yet.
Very
So
well.
hopefully, we'll see.
As a full-time player, really looking forward to Initiative.
The nicest thing as a full-time player, you are going to appreciate what I would call the side banter that happens at a game table, because to me, one of the most important aspects of a D&D game, or of any role-playing tabletop game, is what happens between the people that's not a part of the game itself. And I was very attuned to making that a key part of what happens in the film, because that's the stuff that really fills in what everybody at the table is like, and who they are, what they are, and it also explains why everybody's there together at the table as well, why they're friends and how they're friends, and it's that kind of, it to me was very interesting to delve into as a writer.
See, ironically enough, JW and I were at a convention recently, and he kept talking about this. Yes, Dungeons and Dragons. Told you, Joe, we need a show on the network about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, okay. So yeah, that was a little like,
I'm old school, by the way. My game, I still run first edition AD&D. Now it's been modified, and I've updated it as time has gone on, but I'm still running first edition. So I am true old school.
Isn't
Nothing against the newer versions.
isn't
but
the great television show right now with Stranger Things? Isn't that kind
Yes,
of
yes,
based
it is.
on Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, based on it loosely.
Okay.
There are Dungeons and Dragons sequences in the show, and by the way, I'm a very big fan of the show.
Right.
And they stylize a number of those sessions as well.
Mm-hmm.
When it started, it began with this whole Dungeons and Dragons things, and a creature called the Demogorgon, who is one of the devils from the original books.
Oh,
But it's not, and it expanded out from there. And quite frankly, if you're a old school Dungeons and Dragons player, you can see the threads of the game and the creatures and the way things were written that are just strewn all through the series. I do not use THAC0. And in case you're wondering what THAC0 is, that's 2-hit armor class 0. I don't use that. I use old school, baby. THAC0 came in with the second edition of D&D. All right, I'm showing you how much of a nerd I am here. I even wore my like I said, my shirt from the movie. I am the Game Master, because we couldn't put Dungeon Master on there. That's so yeah. It's there. D&D is rife through all of Stranger Things, but it's stylized and extracted, and it makes good story.
absolutely. Well, I want to tell everybody, make sure you check out Bob's new film, Initiative, wherever you get a chance to watch it. I will tell you firsthand that he is a brilliant actor. He has unbelievable range. He's one of those people that when you see him perform, you lose yourself in his performance, because he's just that good of an actor. Bob, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And I'm super proud of all these wonderful things you are doing. And I can't wait to have a burger and a beer with you again sometime soon.
That makes two of us, and thank you so much for the time here. I did miss Scott, and like you mentioned at the beginning, he is the person who did the music for my film.
Yes, and Scott and many people know he did the music for my film Middle Village, and he did the music for my film Wits End. He's not only an incredible actor, but also he everything from sound design to an incredible musician. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy. Thank you, Half Cheetah Willview.
Thank you much.
so,
with that,
wait, Bob, where can we find you on social media and follow up on your projects?
You can find the project on bobsank.com/initiative, or you can find my acting page on bobsank.com. There is a Facebook page out there for it as well. And my Twitter is @the Oh, and there's a story behind that.
I am sure.
Called the Nostradamus, because it goes back to playing poker. People used to think that I was able to read everyone's mind, so they didn't call me Nostradamus, they called me Nostradamus.
And by the way, I'm becoming extraordinarily jealous of you as we're growing older together, Bob. Because as we're growing older, you are turning into Donald Pleasance, and that's fucking awesome.
Oh, I'll take that one. Well, it's either that or George Carlin. Take your pick.
Oh no.
Oh yes. Okay.
I get George. I mean, get Donald Pleasance way more. Got to put a trench coat on, run around, chase Michael Myers. It'd be awesome.
I would take that.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Senkewicz. Bob, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks for everything, guys.
Be well,
Thank you, Bob. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Night, night.
Oh, wrong one.
Yeah.
Wrong button. Hey,
Joe's drinking too much.
I was all excited about the Dungeons and Dragons stuff. I'm just gonna start hitting random buttons, and we're gonna see where we go from there.
You wanted to just show everybody Bob up close so that he really does look like Donald Pleasance.
George Carlin, yes.
No. Donald's got that cool Donald Pleasance vibe.
He just needs a trench coat.
That was a fun show. Bob's a great guy.
Very fun show.
Yep, 9,256th episode of The End of the Night.
How does that make you feel?
Old. Really, really, really old.
So, ladies and gentlemen that are still out there, don't forget to go to David Lee Madison's The End of the Night on Facebook. Give it a like and subscribe. Also, go to the Indie Escape Network. Give us a like and subscribe, follow, share on all our social network platforms. We'd greatly appreciate it. It's just a small click for you. Doesn't cost you a thing. Means the world to us.
You know, Joe, in these final minutes that we have together, I think it was almost 4 years now that you and George started what was it called then? The Indie Brigade. Indie Brigade, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get sentimental or anything, but I'll be honest with you. George went off and did his own thing. That's fine. That's awesome. But I got to give you kudos, Joe, because this network that you built with some extraordinarily talented people like JW and Wendy and Gabe and the people who have chipped in along the way, the
John
enormous
Wayne,
family that you have on this show, on this network. You really, really deserve kudos. And when I look back, and I'm not just blowing my own show's horn, every show, the guests that we've had on this network is second to none as far as streaming shows on platforms like this. I'll put us up against Joe Rogan. I'll put us up. I mean, we fucking had Vincent Price on this show. Who the fuck had Vincent Price on this show? On their show. So I mean, I'm super proud of what we've done here. I'm super proud of you, Joe.
Thank you.
Very, very good programming. I had mentioned that we were going to have some certain guests these weeks that we just had on. But due to the strike that's going on in Hollywood, a lot of people, believe it or not, are not even allowed to talk about the programs that they're currently on. Because they look at it as a way of promoting something that they're striking.
And that's writers, actors, the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards. So yes. Please bear with us, and we have to support the writers' strike, because imagine everything that you ever loved, every film, every song, every book, everything that you ever loved in your life that was artistic started with somebody with a pen and a piece of paper. And those are the folks right now who need us to get their back so that we could get that going. Congrats, Joe. And now we need Bob for my idea and want to play and outsmart them. What the hell is he talking about? Is he still going on about Dragons and Dragons?
He's going on. So you want to know what's cool, though? So tomorrow night, JW and Rich, they're going to be reviewing Batman '89.
Oh,
And
sweet. The
who did we
keyboard.
have? Yeah, who did we have from Batman?
We had
89?
Robert Wool. We had
Robert Wool was
Yeah,
on.
this show. Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, we probably had somebody from everything that was ever awesome. Which
True
is
words have not been said.
yeah, which is pretty. I mean, pretty. I know he was Arliss. Yeah, he was Arliss. With that being said, I want to thank Bob Senkewicz for being on tonight. Just a great guy, a great friend. Make sure you check out his new film initiative. He's a hard-working filmmaker and a stage presence, and just a great guy. Again, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. Are we doing a show next Sunday? Because I have a guest if we are.
Usually you tell me when we're doing shows.
I listen. Yes, we will be back next Sunday. Hopefully, Grunkle Scott Schiaffo will be out of prison by then. It'd be awesome. And we can have Grunkle Scott back. And thank you, John JW. You're awesome. It all started, I was on NBC with JW, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago already. It's pretty horrifying. With that being said, again, thank you everybody for watching this crazy train wreck of a show. We will be back same bat time, same bat channel next Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Again, happy Mother's Day to all you wonderful moms out there. Joe, anything you want to say before I give my famous closing line?
Well, I'm just curious. Do you already know who's scheduled? Then can you drop a hint?
It's a famous horror writer.
Ooh.
Okay. Yep. I'll actually show you. I'll send you the show card when we're done. With that being said, we'll see you guys next Sunday at 10 p.m. And remember, no man is a failure who has friends. Good night, everybody.